All right, get ready, because today we are diving deep into some seriously Nobel Prize-worthy work.
Definitely Nobel work.
Protein folding. Remember that article you sent over about David Baker, Demis Hassabis, and John Jumper? That's what we are tackling in this deep dive, and let me tell you, this is way more exciting than any bio class I ever took.
Oh, it's way cooler than high school biology. This is the cutting edge.
So, before we even get to, the specifics, why is this a big deal? Remind us.
So, for literally decades,
Okay.
figuring out how proteins fold into those crazy, intricate 3D shapes, it's like trying to solve, a puzzle, but with millions of pieces.
Right.
And blindfolded.
Blindfolded, yeah. And so these tiny protein structures are they are running the show in our bodies, right?
Yes.
Everything.
They do everything.
From how we digest to how we fight off, viruses.
Exactly, yeah. If it's not folded in the right way, it's not going to work. And that's where our Nobel laureates come in. They found ways to predict those shapes.
Okay, so we've got Baker, Hassabis, and Jumper. Talk about, a biochemist, a neuroscientist, and then an AI wizard. That sounds like the dream team.
They really are a dream team, and it just shows the power of collaborating.
Yeah.
Different viewpoints coming together.
Okay, so let's start with Baker, right? He was kind of like the OG in a lot of ways, right? He developed this software called Rosetta, and, growing up, I always think of the Rosetta Stone, so tell me, what's the connection?
That's a great analogy, right?
Yeah.
Just like the Rosetta Stone helps us understand hieroglyphs, Baker's software was designed to decipher the language of proteins. And proteins, they're made up of these chains of amino acids, imagine a string of beads.
Okay.
And Rosetta used these really powerful algorithms to analyze those sequences and try to predict the most likely way they'd fold into that 3D structure.
Oh, so Rosetta was like the translator, kind of taking the amino acid letters and turning it into this 3D, sculpture.
Exactly.
That's really cool. Did it work right away, though?
It's funny. Any good puzzle solver,
Yeah.
Rosetta needed some practice. It took years of refining the software, adding more data, tweaking those algorithms to get to a point where it can make really accurate predictions.
And this, from what I understand, is where Baker took this really interesting turn, right?
He did.
With Fold It. It sounds like something out of, Ready Player One or something.
Yeah, it was amazing.
So tell me about Fold It.
So Baker had this idea that maybe human intuition could be useful, right?
Okay.
Sometimes even better than computers.
Wow.
So he created this game called Foldit. And it let anyone, it could be, gamers, it could be your grandma, try their hand at solving these protein structures. So players were presented with a 3D model of the protein. They had these tools. They could twist it, turn it, fold it, and they'd get points for finding stable configurations.
Wait, so just regular people playing a game were actually contributing to, legitimate science?
They were. It was amazing.
Did it lead to any breakthroughs?
It absolutely did. So in a lot of cases, Foldit players came up with better solutions than Rosetta by itself.
Wow.
Which is amazing. It just shows that sometimes that human touch, our ability to see patterns, make those creative leaps, that can be a huge help, even with really complex scientific problems.
That's incredible, and it makes you wonder, what else could we be solving if we turned it into a game,
Right.
But Baker's work was amazing, but a new player was about to come onto the scene, and I think you know where I'm going. Artificial intelligence.
Exactly. AI was about to rock the protein folding world. And that's where Demis Hassabis and DeepMind step onto the stage with their AI creation AlphaFold.
Okay, so DeepMind, AI, this is where things get really interesting. How did they transform this whole protein folding scene?
So before AlphaFold, predicting these structures, it was tough, really tough.
Yeah.
And there's this competition, CASP.
Okay.
Think of it like the protein folding Olympics, right? Where teams would test their prediction methods. And for years, getting those predictions accurate, especially for complex proteins, it seemed impossible.
Right.
And then 2018, DeepMind enters AlphaFold into the competition.
Uh-oh.
And, well, let's just say things haven't been the same since.
I bet. So I've read a lot about this. AlphaFold's performance, it was a total game changer.
Absolutely.
What did they do differently?
It all boils down to deep learning. Imagine feeding a supercomputer a library of every protein structure known to science.
Okay.
And then setting it loose to find patterns, connections That's AlphaFold in a nutshell.
So it's learning, right?
It's learning, it's sifting through this massive amount of data, learning the language of amino acid sequences and how they translate to those 3D shapes. It's incredible.
So like teaching a computer to, I don't know, read a protein, like a blueprint.
Exactly. And here's the key. It doesn't just see individual amino acids.
Okay.
It sees how they interact, how the physics, the chemistry of those interactions, all of it influences that final folded shape.
So it's like it's got this intuition now.
It's like protein intuition, something earlier methods just didn't have.
That's wild. Okay, but how does it actually predict the shape?
This is where John Jumper, the architect of AlphaFold, comes in.
Okay.
He created these algorithms that allowed AlphaFold to predict distance maps.
Distance maps. Okay, break that down for me.
Imagine trying to fold a map, right? But you've got no sense of direction.
Okay, yeah.
A distance map tells you this landmark, it needs to be this far from that one. It's like directions.
So Jumper gave AlphaFold a protein GPS.
Exactly, guiding it to the right structure.
And on top of all of this, and this is something I think is so cool, they made AlphaFold open source.
They did.
It's like they wanted everyone to have this incredible tool.
It was a huge moment for science. Scientists everywhere were celebrating because instead of one team making progress, now you have thousands of researchers all using AlphaFold.
All right, that's amazing. So what are we talking about? Like drug discovery, fighting diseases, what's the impact?
Imagine developing life-saving drugs, but in a fraction of the time, for a fraction of the cost. That's the potential.
That's huge.
By predicting these structures, we can speed up drug discovery dramatically.
And what about diseases like Alzheimer's, Parkinson's? We know misfolded proteins play a role. Can this help us find a cure? I mean, you're talking about diseases that impact so many people.
So many people.
Like, it's exciting, but it's also kind of like, whoa, this is big.
It is a big deal, no doubt.
Yeah, so let's take Alzheimer's, for example, because we know that these misfolded proteins, they clump up in the brain.
Right.
And that causes all sorts of problems.
Huge problems, but studying those proteins, trying to figure out how they cause damage, it's been impossible, like trying to, I don't know, defuse a bomb in the dark.
Okay, so AlphaFold, it's like turning the lights on so we can see these misfolded proteins, see how they're acting so we can actually target them.
Exactly. If we know their structure, we can design drugs to stop that misfolding from happening.
Wow.
Or even break those clumps apart.
So it's like, I don't know, instead of just kind of swinging in the dark,
right,
we actually can see what we're aiming for now.
We have a target, which is huge.
That's really cool. And, you know, we've been talking about fighting diseases, but you mentioned something earlier, designing proteins. Wait, hold on. We can design proteins now?
That's the direction this is going, yeah.
Like build them from scratch.
From scratch. Imagine a protein that can, I don't know, break down plastic.
Wow.
Or one that goes after cancer cells. Precisely.
This is incredible, but I have to imagine it can't be all, you know, sunshine and rainbows.
Oh, of course not.
There's got to be some challenges, right?
There are, like anything, it's not perfect.
Yeah.
AlphaFold can still struggle with those really big, complex proteins.
Right.
And there's so much, well, we're still figuring out, like, how these proteins interact, how they move. It's a dynamic system.
It's like we've opened this door and there's this whole other universe behind it.
Exactly.
But it's exciting.
It's incredibly exciting. We're on the edge of something huge.
Yeah. So as we kind of wrap up this deep dive, what's the one thing you want our listeners to walk away with today?
I want everyone listening to understand this is a revolution. This fusion of AI and biology, it's not sci-fi anymore, it's real. And it's changing everything.
Yeah, and we're talking about faster drug discoveries, maybe even personalized medicine one day.
Absolutely.
Tackling these environmental problems that have been plaguing us.
The possibilities are limitless. It's an incredible time to be in this field.
It really is. Thank you so much for kind of walking us through all of this. It's been amazing.
It's been my pleasure. Always happy to talk about this stuff.
And for everyone listening, until next time, stay curious. Keep those questions coming because who knows what mind-blowing topic we'll be tackling next time on The Deep Dive.